Welcome to Battles for Ukraine. This is a new format we have come up with in which we want to take significant battles from the past years of the full-scale invasion and do a sort of historical and operational reconstruction. For our pilot episode, we have selected the Battle for Siverskodonetsk, an industrial hub home to the Azot chemical plant. The city in Lugansk Oblast, before the full-scale invasion, boasted around 100,000 inhabitants. The battle for Siverskodonetsk and its twin city Lysychansk took place from late April 2022 to July 2022. The cities are, frankly speaking, not the most strategically important in the region. Very important is this road, however, the T-1302, which connects Siverskodonetsk to Bakhmut and also Donetsk to Lugansk Oblast. The battle for the city, however, was of strategic significance because it happened right after the withdrawal of Russian forces from the Kyiv region. The new declared goal at this point in time to establish control over Donbas and Southern Ukraine. And one of the first significant battles for this goal, Siverskodonetsk. On June 25th, 3 years ago, the city was captured by Russian forces and it remains under occupation to this day. Okay, let's get down to business. During this pilot episode, we will be switching back and forth a little bit. Why? One of the advantages of reporting from inside Ukraine is that we have exclusive access to many of the brave men and women who participated in the countless significant battles for the countries during the past year. And today I have the privilege to introduce to you one of them. His name is Pirate. Right now he's the commander of the 1st Squadron of the International Legion of DIU. And during the time of the battle for Siverskodonetsk, he was deputy team leader of a group operating in the fierce battles inside the city.
We're first disembarking in Severodonetsk. For me personally, it's like the heaviest fight I ever had in my life. Generally, if I start counting how many times I was so close to die, I think this interview will took hours.
It's important to remember that the fight for the city took place not only in Siverskodonetsk, but also on the flanks west and south of the city, as well as in the towns and villages neighboring. In April, Russian forces were pushing both on the southern and on the western flanks, making the front line look like this.
The most important, for my opinion, that Rubizhne, the city on the left of Severodonetsk, the mayor of Rubizhne betrayed Ukraine and got on the Russian side. The 79th and 30th Brigade don't let Russians just jump into a city, even because of this betrayal. But when Russians understood that they are unable to just jump into a city and the defense is good, they started just literally smash everything. They used all their artillery assets, aviation, everything they have to destroy the city completely, no matter on the civilians and all the casualties, which is not military there. After smashing the city, defense became impossible, and the higher command took a decision to retreat through the river, because river is a natural obstacle and it will be much more easier to hold defense here in this area.
Siverskodonetsk is neighbored by 2 towns, Rubizhne, which is here, and Lysychansk. All 3 are separated by 3 rivers, the Borova, the Yerik, and the Siverskodonetsk, which flows here. These rivers initially make a Russian advance difficult, but also created problems for the Ukrainians in terms of logistics. Rivers always work both ways, as an advantage and a disadvantage, depends on the situation. Late April, south of the city, the line is held mostly by the 24th Mechanized Brigade, the oldest brigade in the Ukrainian Armed Forces, by the way. It is supported by the 1st Brigade of the National Guard and the 2nd Special Purpose Battalion Donbas. Attacking on the Russian side are the 6th Motor Rifle Brigade and the Prizrak Brigade of the so-called LNR, the PMC Wagner, the 102nd Motor Rifle Brigade and the 162nd Tank Regiment. West of the city, on the Ukrainian side, defending the line, are the 57th Motorized and the 128th Mountain Assault Brigade, as well as the 95th and 79th Brigades of the Air Assault Forces. On the Russian side, pushing, we have the 30th and 74th Motor Rifle Brigades and the 12th Engineering Brigade. Important for both sides here is the river, which runs south of the Severodonetsk forest, until today a place of fierce fighting. On the southern flank, the Russian 102nd Motor Rifle Brigade at the end of April are pushing towards Novotoshkivsk, which is here. On May 12th, they take control of the settlement of Nizhny. The settlement of Toshkivka becomes contested from this point in time. At the same time, on the western flank, the defending Ukrainian forces, the 79th Air Assault Brigade and the 128th Mountain Assault Brigade, which are holding positions west of Kremenna here in the forest, withdraw to behind the river to establish a better line of defense. The Russians also advance in the west, where the 15th Motor Rifle Brigade first captures Zarychna, then Yampil, and forces the defending Ukrainian brigades, the 79th and the 95th Air Assault, as well as the 57th Mechanized, to fall back. The big challenge for the Russian forces, and their main objective in this area, is to cross the river. In the first weeks of May, supported by the specialized 12th Engineering Brigade, they make multiple attempts to cross the river at two main points. One is west of the village of Serebranka. Here, the Ukrainian forces destroy a couple of BMPs as well as engineering and transport vehicles. The second point is north of the village of Bilohorivka. Here, the Russian army has amassed a huge number of forces with hundreds of vehicles and thousands of soldiers. But the era of drone warfare has already arrived in Ukraine, even if it was at a much smaller scale than it is now. Such a large amount of forces stick out like a sore eye, and the artillery of the 80th Air Assault and the 17th Tank Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces unleash hellfire. The Russian 74th Motor Rifle Brigade has thousands of casualties, more than 70 armored vehicles are destroyed. In addition, the commander of the 12th Engineering Brigade is killed. Further south, the battle for Popasna is raging. There, forces of the notorious Wagner PMC play a pivotal role. It's one of the first battles where the extent of their involvement in this war is really starting to crystallize. By the 8th of May, Russians control most of the town. They then send in a large number of reinforcements. The 40th and 336th Marine Infantry Brigades and the 234th, the 104th and the 137th Regiments of the Air Assault Forces, or VDV. On May 13th, these newly gathered forces launch a huge attack. And on May 18th, they break through and capture the village of Druzhba. By May 25th, the Russian VDV reaches the road. They also make progress to the west and to the east, capturing the villages of Komushevacha and Midna Ruda. Things are not looking so good for Ukraine because it seems like the main road out for all the forces concentrated in Siverskodonetsk is gone. But help arrives in the form of the 80th Ukrainian Air Assault Forces, the DSHV, which force the Russians to retreat from the road and thus take back control. The 118th Territorial Defense Force Brigade is additionally deployed to this area. The Russians concentrate their offensive power now more to the east. By June 21st, the Russians control a number of small towns in this area, including Vrubivka, Metyolkine and Pidlisne, essentially leaving the last Ukrainian defensive stronghold, Zolote, which is here, and held by the 24th Mechanized Brigade, surrounded by three sides. The only option at this point is to retreat.
So, losing of these areas was heavy strike for defenders of the Severodonetsk. After decisions just to still try to hold the city were made, brigades were settled in a different order inside the city.
The International Legion arrived in mid-May in Siverskodonetsk. During this time, the first Russian forces managed to gain their foothold in the city. They first occupied a hotel called Mir, which lies here on the northern outskirts of Siverskodonetsk. From there on out, fierce street battles begin in the city, and the Russians advance slowly but surely to the city center.
When we arrived into the city, we were operating just through one bridge over here. It was only one still existing. It was heavily damaged with a lot of holes. It was, like such huge blown up holes that an armored vehicle like this could just fit inside and fall off a bridge. One of the things that I remember, which is really funny story. So we was exfilling already after our mission. We are driving on a bridge and like a huge blast just like turned us 180 degrees back, and we like driving back to Severodonetsk, and we like, what happened? Why we are driving back?
During that time, the Azot chemical plant became the Ukrainian main point of defense. It's a huge structure featuring extensive underground systems comparable to the Azov-style plant in the city of Mariupol or the coke plant in Avdiivka. The Azot chemical plant, it begins here
Yes.
behind the street, yeah?
Yeah, like generally all you see here in the map, it's a plant, it's like huge.
Wow.
This area generally was like gray. We tried to push. Here was National Guard holding the positions, and we get through their lines and pushed forward. A lot of forces concerned here, but only us were moving forward. Generally, we took control of the block over here. Like all the block was under control. We pushed to the right to the infantry and also like controlled these areas over here, and tried like even to push to the center and get a lot of fights over here. I think that we done a great job and show Russians that we will not only defend the city, that we will try to push them out and fight with them really heavy.
The deployment of International Legion fighters, along with other reinforcements, indeed manages to push the Russians back. By June 6, they are again at the outskirts of the city, and Ukrainian units are controlling, some say, up to 80% of Siverskodonetsk. But the fights are brutal and the cost is high.
A lot of legionnaires are good in CQB and like have experience, were trained on it. So in the industrial areas, we are showing like very good results. Generally, there was 3 days of like really severe fights. Then it was like one fight was going like 6 hours, 7 hours, more, not stopping at all, not for a minute.
Fuck you! Hey, you're good.
At this point in 2022, warfare was very different from today. In these 3 years, especially the use of drones just exponentially skyrocketed.
In the Severa, it was not like today. Not the thousands of FPVs and other drones flying around. Russians was using only like fixed wing big stuff like R1 in those time. We were experienced in it already. We were already using Quantix Recon drone. With one of the US former Special Forces guy, I personally fired a couple of Switchblade 300 into Russians there. Before we move forward, take the drone, recon a little bit around, then we move. Again, drone, recon, move. We were doing like things wisely in a tactical perspective. Even then we understanding that in the close future, this will be the fight.
On the 12th of June, the last bridge, Lysychansk bridge, which is this one here, is destroyed, and it becomes more and more difficult for Ukrainian logistics. At this point, the only way to make it in and out of the city was by small ferries and rubber boats that would transport forces over the river here. On June 23rd to 24th, the Ukrainian armed forces inside of the city are given an order to withdraw and destroy any heavy equipment remaining for it not to fall into the enemy hands.
We were really outnumbered. We were fighting like 3+ men with like 100, 140 from other side. Generally, I was thinking that we will never get out of there, that it's the day when I will die. It was hard trip under the aviation strikes, artillery, tank was directly firing like in us. But we get out of there, we dragged our fallen comrades out of there also, we didn't leave them for Russians.
After the retreat from Siverskodonetsk, the battle for its twin city Lysychansk, which is situated here, took place. Pirate and his group also operated there until the Ukrainian retreat was ordered at the beginning of July. But for Pirate, it is another story that remains his most vivid memory from this time.
I remember, like I was pointing on a map with this beautiful knife. So in those fight near those building, we got like 2 losses. It was a young British I don't think that it's a proper way to say his name in loud now, but like other one, it's Alexei Chubashov. It's like a famous Ukrainian military journalist and a fighter who was the commander of those group where like I was a deputy. And he died in those battle. He got 2 bullets in his neck, and like we was trying to still keep the fight, communicate with the command and nearby units, trying to save his life. And it was like, I think, the most hard for me in all those times. And he died there. And it was his knife. And I took his knife like a memory about him, because when he bought this knife, he was always like joking. Just like imagine how cool it will be on a big meetings with the generals, pointing like this knife in a map with a wise face, like you are a man who knows what he is speaking about. And I was always laughing about it, and like I took this knife and like now I'm doing the same stuff on all meetings, like I'm present. So it's like a memory about him for me. And like we have, he was call sign, he was a recruit. So we have a recruit company in a squadron named in his honor to not forget what he done, because he was not a fighter and a journalist. He was doing a lot of work to rebuild the Ukrainian army, to make it much more efficient and better in the standards. And I think that his death is like a great loss, not only for his comrades and the family, in general for an army and a nation. So that's why I'll keep it.